Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Conley, and I am the Deputy Commonwealth Attorney who supervises the Victim Witness Unit for the Virginia Beach Commonwealth Attorney's Office. I'd ask that you all please rise as the honor guard from the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office presents our colors, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Teacher, hope, left, face, praise and colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today. On behalf of Colin Stolle, the Commonwealth's Attorney for the City of Virginia Beach, I'd like to welcome everyone to our annual observation of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. We do have some guests in attendance today that I would like to recognize. From Virginia Beach City Council, Vice Mayor Rosemarie Wilson. From the Virginia Beach Police Department, Chief Paul Newdigate, Deputy Chief Sean Adams, Deputy Chief Shannon Wichendall, Deputy Chief Jeff Wilkerson, Lieutenant Peter Kepp. From the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Department, Captain Kevin Hugo and Lieutenant Wayne Thomas. Since 1981, National Crime Victims' Rights Week has been challenging our nation to confront and remove barriers to achieving justice for all crime victims. This year's theme, How Would You Help?, asks all of us, friends, family members, neighbors, colleagues, community leaders, victim service providers, criminal justice practitioners, and health professionals. How can we help crime victims? At this time, I would like to introduce the Commonwealth's Attorney for the City of Virginia Beach, Colin D. Stolle.
Thank you, Pat. And this is such an important week to me every year because we get an opportunity to really try to bring awareness in the community and highlight in the community victims' rights and the fight for victims' rights. It does not come as a surprise to anyone in this room or in our community that the criminal justice system and debates over reforming the criminal justice system have been at the forefront of not only Hampton Roads, Virginia, but as a nation as a whole, it has been in the forefront of our conversations. Whether it is, how to best help defendants in these scenarios, or relook at our sentencing in this, or how should police be functioning, or how should prosecutors be functioning. What is left out of all of the dialogue time and time again is victims and their rights, and how do we make things better for victims and their families. That is truly what has been left out of this dialogue. And you don't need to look any further than the past General Assembly session that just finished, when a bill that eventually ended up being vetoed was passed called the Second Look Bill that would allow defendants basically a second sentencing. So victims and victims' families would have to relive the horror of their cases years later as the defendant gets a second chance to maybe reduce the sentence that they have to serve. Bills like that are completely ignoring the impact that crime has on victims. It is completely ignoring the trauma that they go through, how they try to piece their lives back together and to move forward. That's why this week is important, because the community needs to understand that the justice in the justice system is not just about defendants, it's about victims. And we can also look federally as to not recognizing victims' rights. When the Victim of Crime Act is so short of funding that they're anticipating over a 40% reduction in funds next year to the Victim of Crime Act fund. And I know people tend to glaze over when you start bringing up funding and budgets and that kind of thing. But let me explain why this is important. The Victims of Crime Act, the funding for that, pays for victim services across the country. It pays for victim witness programs. It pays for support agencies like Samaritan House. In fact, the vast majority of victim services that are available in our communities come from this funding. Yet we're looking at potentially as much as a 41% reduction next year in those funds. This is why this week is so important, because the dialogue is missing a very important part, and that is crime victims and their family. The issue that I take with the theme that came this year with the National Victims' Rights Week is that it says, what would you do? It's a hypothetical. Well, you know what? We have thousands upon thousands of our friends, our neighbors, our co-workers, our family members walking in the door of this courthouse every single year, and they're asking for help. This isn't a hypothetical. It's not what would you do. The theme should be what can you do? And that's really what we in our community need to ask, is what can we do to help victims of crime? What can we do to make the system better for victims so that we can have a fair, balanced justice system? So I would urge you, if the question is what can we do, it's very simple. As a community, we can reach out to our legislators and we can say, if you're considering crime bills, victims need to have a seat at the table, an equal say in what's happening in the criminal justice reforms, not be shut out, not be ignored, but an equal seat at that table. We need to call our congressional delegations and say the importance of ensuring that there's funding for victim services is extremely important, because it will affect all of us in our community if it doesn't happen. That's what we can do as a community. That's what we need to do as a community. And I would hope that we all walk away from this with the desire to make lives better for our victims that we deal with. So with that, I get an opportunity now to introduce someone who I know is a very strong supporter of victims' rights, has always been a very strong supporter of law enforcement, and has always been a very dear friend of mine, and I'm very happy to have with us here today. And that is our Vice Mayor, Rosemary Wilson. Rosemary.
Thank you, Colin. He is a very dear friend. In fact, his whole family are dear friends. It's such an honor to be here with all of you today. And it's also a very sobering time to think about, you know, you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason because you've probably been victimized. And what Colin said is so true. You have to be cognizant, you have to pay attention to watch what your lawmakers are doing. Because this bill, the second look bill, fortunately our governor vetoed it. It'll come back. They got it this close to almost being a law, and it will be back. So put it on your radar for next year and make sure, as an elected official, I will tell you, your voices do matter. Your voices matter a lot, and especially when you call and you say, I live in your district. I'm one of your voters. They really pay a lot more attention to people that they know vote for them. So, and the funding, it's really important. So we have to take care of each other. When people hear the word crime or hear crime statistics, they tend to think in terms of, are the numbers going up or down? And how it affects their loved ones. What Victim Rights Week does is to help us give our attention to those who are directly affected by crimes, the victims. The national theme this year, how would you help? Options, services, and hope for crime survivors clearly states the important task we have as citizens. This highlights the importance of our responsibility of assisting victims of crimes every day and ensuring they are given the opportunity to receive the support and services they're entitled to. Crimes don't affect just one person, and everybody in this room knows that. It's not just the victims who's affected. Families, friends, communities, all are affected in some way, large or small. When a crime is committed, this week recognizes that fact and increases awareness of how victims are affected, who is affected besides just the victim directly, and how we can do more to help those victims. Here in our city where crime rates are down, and I can tell you we love our police chief. We've got a great police chief. Even though he did come from Cincinnati, we're going to call him ours now. We are considered one of the safest cities in the country. We must still deal with crimes of every nature, including the horrific mass shooting on May 31st, 2019. Our city was changed forever that day. Crime rates mean very little when you are the victim of a crime. We have tremendous resources in our city for both dealing with crime and offering assistance to the victims. And we want to thank our Commonwealth attorney, Colin Stolle, and his office and staff for highlighting such an important program. May we all do our best to not only see a decrease in crime in our community, but do all that we can to comfort and assist those ones who are the victims. And we have a proclamation for you today. I know I don't look like Bobby Dyer, but he's a little bit taller than I am. Whereas surviving a crime can have a myriad of lasting effects on victims, including physical, psychological, social, and financial issues. And whereas we know that countless survivors never tell anyone about what happened to them. And whereas it is necessary to create safe environments for survivors of crime, providing not only support, but also access to critical services and, above all, hope. And whereas victim service providers, community members, businesses, places of worship, colleagues, neighbors, and family members are capable of providing victim-centered, trauma-informed, and culturally responsive support. And whereas we must listen to survivors and be willing to create new options for support to ensure that all victims of crime can receive help and seek justice. And whereas we must do everything we can to show survivors that hope, the belief that the future will be better, it's not just tangible, but within their reach. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week encourages all people to ask themselves the question, how would you help a victim of crime? And whereas the City of Virginia Beach is hereby dedicated to raising awareness of options, services, and hope for crime survivors, now, therefore I, Robert M. Bobby Dyer, Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, do hereby proclaim April 21st through the 27th, 2024, as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Virginia Beach. And in Virginia Beach, I call upon the citizens of our beloved Virginia Beach to reaffirm the city's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year, and expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, to be affixed on this 24th day of April, 2024. Robert M. Dyer, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, thank you for your kind words. They were very thoughtful, and I know everyone here really appreciates them. On behalf of the Virginia Beach Commonwealth Attorney's Office, I want to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to our guest speaker today, Virginia Beach Vice Mayor Rosemary Wilson, and to all our attendees. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today's observation of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This concludes our program for today.